What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's been a while, but I am back because it's Greninja Calm Day. And honestly, this is the day that I've been waiting for almost 3 years since the time Gen 6 came out in Pokemon Go. And if you've been following this channel for long enough, I've mentioned it multiple times that Greninja is arguably my most favorite Pokemon of all time. As I'm sure it is for a lot of you as well. It is such a cool Pokemon, and now, especially with the introduction of Water Shuriken as its fast move, and also the Calm Day move of Hydro Cannon, it's become so much more viable for PvP, right? And also the shiny variant is just so cool as well. It looks pretty similar to Ash Greninja. Ash Greninja is incredibly cool as well. Hopefully we get that at some point in the future. But anyways, as far as this team comp is concerned, for today's video, I'm going to be using Galarian Weezing on the lead, which is actually a perfect foil for Greninja because it covers up for 4 out of the 5 weaknesses that Greninja has, and also double resists fighting and double resists bug, right, which is really crucial. And I'm going to be using Drapion as the save swap, arguably one of the best save swaps in the game along with Sableye. It also has that poison coverage to provide versatility, which allows Greninja to be able to sweep towards endgame there. So there were some really fun battles in here, and let's get straight into it. So moving on to the first battle here, we have Galarian Weezing into a Bastiodon here. This is a pretty tricky situation. I need to switch out right away. And typically most people who lead with Bastiodon either have a Medicham or a grass type in the back, or probably even both. As you can see, they bring out their Medicham here. I'm going to go for the crunch right now. The good thing for us is that they basically switched into a little bit of an energy disadvantage, and we know what Drapion does with even the slightest bit of energy advantage, right? As you can see, I'm able to get to the second crunch before they can even get off their first move right now, and they're going to have to give up a shield if they want to maintain switch advantage, which they do right there. I'm not going to give up any shields here. It's absolutely fine. Even if it's an ice punch, not a big deal because I'm going to be able to get to another crunch here. I'm really hoping this KOs or hopefully gets the shield. But unfortunately, they hang on with a sliver of health because the previous moves didn't quite get the defense debuff. But I'm going to bring in my Greninja just to soak up the move here because the best they can do right now is go for a power-up punch. But both Ice Punch and Psychic are resisted. As you can see, they blind throw the Psychic because they assumed that I would bring out my Galarian Weezing, and Psychic is obviously double resisted. And their Grass type happens to be Trevenant, which is a blessing in disguise because if it was a Razor Leafer, that would have absolutely shredded Greninja, right? And we get the boost on the Night Slash, and now it's time for Greninja to go to town. I'm going to basically shield this up right now, and I'm going to overfarm just a little bit because I don't want them to catch a move on their Bastiodon. Unfortunately, they end up catching a Night Slash on their Bastiodon, which is not that big of a deal anyways because I need to get off a Night Slash and a boosted Hydro Cannon against a Bastiodon. As you can see, now I'm going to go for the Hydro Cannon right now. This is boosted because of the Night Slash earlier, and you can see it just does so much damage. It does almost 70% of Bastiodon's health. We're able to farm it down. We're one Water Shuriken short of a Night Slash here. This is a boosted Night Slash against the Trevenant. This is going to absolutely one-shot the Trevenant here, and yeah, Greninja just bringing out the broom and going for the sweep right there. So, I mean, as you can see, it was just when you can align situations that are favorable, it is just so much fun to use, especially towards endgame there. So moving on to the second battle here, we have Froslass on the lead. I mean, I could stay in. It's not a really negative matchup for Galarian Weezing, but I have two dark types in the back, so I might as well bait out whatever their anti-dark is because I'm almost sure that they have an anti-dark, right? Because they're leading with a ghost, but it looks like they probably don't have a hard counter, so they bring out their Noctowl, which is fine as well. I'm going to go for the crunch right now. We're going to be able to get to the second crunch here. We get the defense debuff for the first crunch, which is really crucial, hoping to get a shield here, but unfortunately they don't shield. That's fine as well. This basically puts them into farm down range. As you can see, we get the second debuff as well, which is really nice because I can just come in with my Galarian Weezing and soak up a move and basically completely farm down with Fairy Wind, right? Fairy Wind unfortunately doesn't do too much fast move damage, but because of the double debuff, hopefully I can farm it down before they can get to a Sky Attack here. To the second Sky Attack I meant. And we're able to just do that. They come back in with their Froslass right now. We're absolutely loaded on energy. And I'm going to basically need to get shields because Greninja works really well, especially with shield advantage towards endgame. Going for the overheat right now, able to get to the second overheat as well. Even though this is debuffed, this should force the second shield from them. Hopefully it does. And as you can see, it does there. So immediately switching into my Greninja right now. I'm going to farm up as much energy as I can. They are staying in. I'm going to shield this up. Obviously, even though both Avalanche and Shadow Ball are resisted, I do have to shield it at this range, at this point, because again, it's still going to do about 50% of Greninja's health, right? So I'm going to go for the Night Slash here, almost KOs, and we get a boost, and this is absolutely perfect. I mean, when you get the boost towards endgame, and they have a grass type in the back, happens to be Venusaur, which is not the best situation, but because of the boosted Night Slash, as you can see, it does about over 50% of Venusaur's health, does almost 60, and we're able to get to another Night Slash here. And that's going to take it out. That's a little bit surprising that they didn't switch out of their Froslass, but either way, I mean, because they didn't have shields and because we got the boost, I think we should have been able to win that for the most part there. So moving on to the next battle here, we have Galarian Weezing into a Shadow Victreebel. This is a pretty tricky situation because I'm forced to stay in. Typically in this team comp, you want to switch out into one of your dark types, typically Drapion, to bait out their Fighter or their Charmer. But I can't really switch out in my Drapion because if they switch out and they manage to win switch advantage, then I'll have the Victreebel aligned against my Greninja towards endgame, right? And yeah, that is a pretty terrible matchup to say the least. I mean, it's probably going to take like 4 or 5 Razor Leaves to take it out, but unfortunately I end up shielding an Acid Spray here. I was thinking that was a Leaf Blade because I really wanted to get this Overheat off, and that actually, you'll see that kind of ended up costing me the game here. So we get both shields, which is perfect. That's ideally what you want with Greninja in the back. You want to make sure the shields are out of the way. I'm going to come with my Drapion. At this point, I don't have to shield anything because everything Shadow Wick has is resisted by Drapion. It is a Leaf Blade, still does quite a bit of damage though. And I can't overfarm too much because we're still taking a ton of damage from Razor Leaf. I could have probably built up to the second crunch here, but I wanted to maintain a little bit of health on Drapion. And let's see what they come in. They're probably going to bring in their Bastiodon here, which is typically what they'll have, right? If they have a Shadow Wick on the lead, you almost expect that they have a Bastiodon in the back. I overfarm just a little bit to make sure they don't catch, but they still end up catching on their Azumarill. So this is not good at all because, again, Greninja has no play against Azumarill. My only win con here is to try and stall that switch timer out, and I'm just going to try and go for the Night Slash, hoping for a boost so that, you know, those resisted Hydro Cannons just do that little bit more damage. So I go for the Night Slash here, and at this point, I'm going to have to shield this up. I actually lost count of how many bubbles they built up to, but even if it was just an Ice Beam, I still have to shield because that would pretty much bring us close to being knocked out, right? Because of how glassy Greninja is. And I'm just going to go for the Night Slash here, and my switch timer is almost back up, so I'm going to switch into my Drapion to catch the Play Rough. Hopefully this is a Play Rough because I really want to make sure that Azumarill is completely dry on energy here, and my only win con right now is to basically go for the Night Slash, and if I get a boost, I'm going to go for the second Night Slash. If I don't get a boost, I need to go for a Hydro Cannon because Night Slash is not going to be enough to KO. So I'm going to build up to 100 energy here and throw the second Hydro Cannon on CMP to an Ice Beam. So this Hydro Cannon should be taking out the Azumarill here, but I need to get to 2 back-to-back Hydro Cannons to get out the Bastiodon, but unfortunately I'm not able to do so. I'm able to get to the first Hydro Cannon, the Smackdown comes through. Unfortunately the damage registers here and my Greninja goes down. So we're actually one Water Shuriken short of a Hydro Cannon. It was very close there, but again, you can't win them all. So moving on to the next one here, we have a Chesnaught on the lead. This is beautiful. You definitely want to see Chesnaught on the lead because Chesnaught is one of the hardest counters to Greninja, right? It absolutely walls Greninja if you're not running Aerial Ace, that is. I mean, if you have Aerial Ace, you probably can one-shot it, but anyways, they bring in their Lanturn. I'm forced to stay in because I don't have a hard counter to Lanturn. I'm going to go for the Play Rough and then switch out because I want to make sure that I win switch advantage, right? If I switch into my Drapion with the energy disadvantage, then it's likely that they're going to win switch advantage, which is obviously not good for me with Greninja in the back. So I'm going to go for the Crunch right now. Obviously, it is not going to KO, and they're going to get to a move, and that's okay. It's probably going to be a Surf, and I'm hoping that I can farm this thing down before they can get to another move. But unfortunately, they end up getting another Surf. Even though my Drapion's PvP IVs aren't the best, I'm pretty sure this can tank another Surf. And I'm going to try and farm this thing down. And we come out of it with a Sludge Bomb. I'm just going to blind throw the Sludge Bomb, assuming that the Chesnaught's going to come out. They're going to probably think it's just a Crunch, and they're probably going to let it go through because it's resisted because of the Fighting typing. But it is super effective because of the Grass typing, the Sludge Bomb, and yeah. As you can see, they probably expected the Crunch there, and that kind of seals the deal for us because they have a Stunfisk in the back and we have Greninja with 2 shields, and there's absolutely no way a Galarian Stunfisk is going to outpace Greninja. I'm just going to go for the Shield Bait here, and they fall for the Shield Bait as well. Ideally, you don't want to, I mean, it's not necessary to go for Shield Bait now, especially because of how quickly you can get to a Hydro Cannon, but a Night Slash obviously also for the boost potential as well, and it's also slightly cheaper, right? Especially because you can get to the second Night Slash quicker. Quagsire, again, Quagsire and Mudboys are arguably one of the, it's probably the kryptonite for this team because you have 2 out of these 3 Pokemon which are pretty weak to it, and this team honestly doesn't have a solid counter to ground types, right? Greninja is my best response, and also Greninja being so glassy, can't really even tank a Mud Bomb comfortably. Unfortunately, I'm having to sack my Drapion. I can't really stay in with my Galarian Weezing here because I need my Weezing if they have a Fighter or a Charmer at the back, right? Unfortunately, I'm going to have to sack my Drapion. I go for the Crunch here. They managed to catch that on their Lanturn. And this is really bad for me because they have a counter to Greninja as well. And also they have a counter to both my Poison types. So I'm going to basically come back with my Galarian Weezing right now. It's probably just going to be a Surf here. I can't afford to come in with my Greninja at this point. I'm just going to go for the Play Rough here. and play rough. I'm really hoping they let this go through. I need to get rid of this Lanturn as soon as possible, and they do let that go through. Does so much damage. And charge move coming through, it's going to be a surf. We should barely be able to survive it, so I'm going to switch out of it as soon as I take the damage. So hopefully I can use my G-Weezing as a sack swap, probably towards endgame if need be. And this is where it matters, right? I mean, I really needed that shield there. I was hoping I can farm it down before they can get to Omo. Unfortunately, they do get to Omo. Even though there's a resisted surf, I still have to shield because we already took a ton of fast move damage from the spark there. And they have a Noctowl in the back, and at this point, even though we have so much energy advantage, this is not looking winnable at all because Noctowl is just so tanky, right? And also they call the Night Slash bait as well. I was really hoping to go for it in order to get a boost. I was pretty sure that they would shield, but now I go for the Hydro Cannon. It really doesn't matter. I should have probably gone for the Night Slash again because they were going to shield that. I mean, you can see, the Water Shuriken animation is just so cool. I mean, if you've seen the anime, the Kalos League, it's probably one of the coolest things ever, especially the semi-finals between Ash and Sawyer. But I knew they were going to switch out into their Quagsire to throw a Mud Bomb, which is why I managed to switch into my Galarian Weezing to tank that. But and I go for the Hydro Cannon here on what should be a CMP type to the second Mud Bomb. I was really hoping they think that is a Night Slash and let that go through. Unfortunately, they shield that up, and we're going to go down to a Mud Bomb there. So we did the best we could, managed to execute the sack swap, but still couldn't quite pull it off. But yeah, I was talking about the semi-finals of the Kalos League where you have this massive Water Shuriken. Even the finals against Alan's Mega Charizard. Yeah, one of the coolest things probably in Pokemon anime, right? But anyways, moving on to the final battle here, they had a Wigglytuff in the lead. It's a good thing we caught the Wigglytuff in the lead because again, G-Weezing has a pretty good matchup against it. They make a switch into their Bastiodon. I go into my Greninja here. This is perfect because Greninja has a pretty solid matchup against Bastiodon. Honestly, Greninja is my only response to Bastiodon in this team. Drapion does okay, but yeah, it's not the most comfortable matchup. I'm going to shield the Stone Edge here. I'm going to build up to 100 energy right now because I need to be able to throw a Hydro Cannon at the Wigglytuff when it comes back in. So I'm going to go for the Night Slash here. This is probably going to KO. Actually, it doesn't quite KO. We managed to get an extra Water Shuriken worth of farm. And I'm just going to blind throw the Hydro Cannon, assuming that the Wigglytuff is going to come in. And if they don't shield it, it's going to do a ton of damage, right? We already saw how much Hydro Cannon does in neutral situations. And as you can see, it just does so much damage. It does about 60% of Wigglytuff's health. And at this point, this game is pretty much over because we have so much energy on the G-Weezing and we have a full health Drapion in the back. So I'm going to go for the Overheat right now. Takes out the Wigglytuff, and they have a Medicham in the back. Typically when people have Bastiodon, they also have Medicham or a Grass type. I mean, in either one of these two scenarios, you want to make sure that you have your G-Weezing. You want to maintain health on the G-Weezing, right? And for some reason, they let the play off go through. I'm not running Brutal Swing on my G-Weezing because we already have enough dark coverage in the back. I think this moveset works perfectly here. So it was a pretty decent team comp. I wouldn't say it's the best team out there. I mean, Greninja, even though it's much more viable than it used to be, it's still definitely not like one of your #1 picks in order to climb rank, but it's definitely a lot of fun to use. So I'm going to bring out some videos for Ultra League and Master League as well, so stay tuned for that. With Water Shuriken, Hydro Cannon, Greninja. And thank you so much for watching. Hope you all had a great calm day, and I'll see you next time.